So a couple of weeks ago at their Make Waves conference in Munich, the team at Make announced a massive new feature coming to the Make platform, Make Grid.
Let us introduce you Make Grid, a visual grid of your no-code landscape so you can keep building fast and with confidence.
So Make Grid allows us to take a zoomed out view of all of our scenarios and automations across our entire organization. And today we're going to show you exactly why we think it's going to be a game changer for you and your company. Now this feature is still not released, but thanks to my co-founder Piv being part of the early product testing with the team at Make, we've been lucky enough to get our hands on the feature already. And today we want to give you an early look at Make Grid so that you can see its potential for yourself. So in this video, we'll be exploring together the Make Grid feature. I'll be testing out some of its key functionalities and we'll see how it interacts with our Make scenarios. And lastly, I'll be pointing out the top 3 most powerful use cases for Make Grid and why we think it's going to change the way you work with Make. Now, if you're new to the channel, my name is Jan. I'm one of the co-founders of 9X. And at 9X, we train business professionals like you in AI and automation and show you how to leverage tools like Make to improve the way you work. If that sounds interesting, please make sure to subscribe to our channel. Now let's dive in and take a closer look at how we can access the Make Grid. So here I am in my Make account with access to the beta. And the first thing you might notice on all of my scenarios that I have this little show in grid symbol, and also on the left-hand side menu, we now see under the organization here, we also can access the grid. So let me click on this one and let's check it out. So what's happening while this is basically loading is I guess it's leveraging the Make API to pull in all that information about your different Make scenarios. And then we're basically dropped into this 3D view of our entire Make organization. It already looks really, really cool. What we can see here is that all of our scenarios are basically grouped into the different folders that we have set up. Now we can tell at 9X we probably haven't been the best with sticking to putting things in folders. So we have a very large group here uncategorized. Let me zoom in now and show you a little bit what this looks like. So we see here, for instance, we have quite a lot. We do a lot of testing here at 9X that there's quite a lot of scenarios that just aren't connected to anything. But what we also have are the different apps that our scenarios are interacting with. So if we see here, for instance, there's an air table. This is our contacts table in one of our bases. And we can see now when we click on this one and we can zoom in, what's very cool is we see every Make scenario in this folder that is interacting with this table. So whether it is basically just sending data to the table, it could be creating new contacts in this case, or also reading data. And in some cases, we see the arrows moving both ways, which means the scenario is both reading from the table and also writing to the table. And we can basically follow this, like these nodes along. So I can click, for instance, I see that this Make scenario is doing something with this contacts table. I can basically click on it and follow it along and see that it's being triggered by a webhook, and it's also sending some information to Slack. So it seems like right now what Make have done is they've covered, let's say, the most popular apps. So you'll see your Airtable tables in here, you'll see your Google Sheets, you'll see your Slack notifications, and I believe the plan is to support more and more apps in this view in Make Grid. But what's amazing is we can see this contacts table, and it's also telling us here on the right-hand side, hey, this object, it's not only in this uncategorized folder, but it's also in other folders in your Make organization. So I can just click on Explore and it will basically give me these lines. Now, since ours is so messy, it maybe is a little bit trickier to see, but you can see all the other places and all the other folders where this contacts table exists. And we can basically click into each of these. And whenever I click back on this Explore, it will give us this zoomed out view. And I have the option to basically zoom in and click on the different areas on my grid. And this is going to make it super easy for managing dependencies. If ever I want to change anything in this contacts table, I'll be able to go to the grid and see all of my scenarios that are interacting with it. Now, another way to access the grid is when you're actually within a scenario, you also have the option at the top right here to click on grid. And what this one will do is not only opens the grid, but it will basically open the grid and already have that scenario selected. So let's see what happens here. And here we go. It just basically zoomed in on the scenario that I just opened the grid from. And I can basically now see this grid view, like, okay, what are the things triggering this scenario? We see a webhook here, and we see all the objects that that scenario is interacting with. This is going to be super useful, especially if you have scenarios triggering other scenarios, that you can follow this path along. Now at the top right, we also do have this search bar. So for instance, I can, again, maybe I was searching for a specific table here. So members, we see all of basically the different objects or scenarios with members in the name. So make it super easy to search. I can basically just click on this one, and it will show me here on the right-hand side that, hey, you have a members object in Airtable, and this is a part of multiple scenarios. I can explore this one, basically now go and try and track along in this grid where all my members tables are. So let me zoom in on this one here. Still getting used to the zoom a little bit. My mouse is a bit aggressive. So here's that members table. And again, we see the data flowing. What's really cool now on the next step, if we click on this secondary icon. So right now we're only at, like, let's say the object view. I can click here into the different links. So these are all the other scenarios that are linking to this object and the different folders. So I could jump to these. If I click on this one, I see that that's this make scenario. Let me go back to this object. Lastly, on basically, this is the attributes tab of Make Grid. So we not only see that we're interacting with the members table, but we actually see every single attribute. So if you think about this as like, if this is a Google Sheet, this would be every single column. If this is an Airtable table or base, this is every single data, like every single field that you have in your Airtable base will show here. So we can see the email field in this members table is used in these 5 scenarios. 3 of them are on, 2 of them are off. We have the first name, and all of these fields are shown here, which is really cool. Now, if this 3D view is maybe a bit much, we also have the option at the bottom here to change this to a 2D view. So we get it a little bit more structured, but I actually think it is pretty cool in the 3D view, the way that we can zoom in and see those data points flowing. Additionally, what I want to point out, so next to the search bar at the top left, we also have the filtering options. And I think this will give you a really good understanding to see how Make Grid is working. So first of all, under the filtering, we have the very useful option to only show the active scenarios. And you can see when I toggle this one on, especially here in that uncategorized folder, this folder becomes a lot cleaner. We don't have so much noise about all those scenarios that are deactivated. But most importantly, what I want to point out here are 2 different filter groups. So we have, first of all, scenario apps. So if I basically open this one, we see now, and the ones filtered out are the ones, I guess, connected to off scenarios. But we see here all the different apps that are used in our scenarios. So for instance, here I can toggle on OpenAI, and now I'll have highlighted on my grid only those scenarios that are basically interacting with OpenAI. Let me zoom in here, and you'll notice now that OpenAI doesn't actually appear anywhere here as what is known as an object. If I click into this scenario, you can see here it is used in the scenario, but this is the main difference. These objects are basically, you have to think about them as there's going to be some apps in your scenario that aren't going to be very useful to be seen here as objects. For instance, when you're just using a ChatGPT prompt completion, there's not sort of like columns in a table that you're interacting with. You're just sending ChatGPT a prompt and getting something back. However, when it comes to Airtable, if we look, for instance, at our task table here, we do have like different attributes that are used, and these, let's say, system of record, whether this is like Airtable or, as I said, Slack or Google Sheets, these will appear here as objects. But otherwise, you also have the ability just to see like what different apps you're using in the scenarios, using the scenarios apps filters. And for those apps that make sense to actually show here on the grid, Make is basically showing you them, and you can actually not only look into the scenario, but you can look into the object and see the different fields that are being used. So now I want to share with you my top 3 use cases for Make Grid, starting with use case number 1, and that is whenever you're doing a system migration. So let's say in the case of maybe a company migrating away from Google Sheets and using more Airtable, you might receive a Slack message like this one. Hey guys, since we're no longer using Google Sheets and moving to Airtable, can we kill the partner lead tracker sheet? When I'm just in this Google Sheet, it's very hard to understand like where the data is coming from. Are people still using the sheet? Are new records still being added? But I think this is a great use case for the grid. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy over this Google Sheet name and then open up the grid. And then in the top left, just basically go and do a search for this Google Sheet. So we can see here, partner leads tracker. I can click on this one. And now we basically see that there are two scenarios. One scenario is currently on and sending information to the sheet. And we had another scenario, I guess, reading data from the sheet, which is deactivated. But in our case now, we know, okay, if we want to basically stop using this Google Sheet and replace it rather with an Airtable, what's great now is I can just click on this scenario. From here, also going back the other way from the grid, I can just click on this open URL, and this will land me directly in that make scenario, where now I can say, hey, look, this is a tally form. Whenever this tally form gets responses, it's going to put something in the Google Sheet. Now we know this is where we need to replace this with our new Airtable base. Now for the second use case where I think Make Grid's going to come in really helpful, and that's going to be whenever we need to make changes to our systems of record. So whether this is like Airtable or Google Sheets or a Slack channel. For instance, let's say here I'm in my tasks table in an Airtable base, and for whatever reason, I maybe want to make some changes to this due date column. Maybe I want to change the name of the field to task due date. Maybe I want to change it to include the time. Always, whenever we make a change like this, we always have this nervous moment that as soon as we make the change, we're going to get a whole bunch of error messages that what we've changed has now basically broken all of our scenarios. And we can actually use Make Grid to help us in this case. So in Make Grid, I'm just going to search at the top here for my tasks table, again, using the find option in the top left. I can now again see my task object. I'm going to head over to the attributes tab. And now, as I mentioned, I want to make a change to this due date field. So I can just search for due date and we see it come up here. Now we see all the scenarios that are currently referencing this due date field in my Airtable base. And what's even cool, you'll notice here something strange, that it's appearing twice in two different groups. That's because this is a quirk, and I think a lot of Airtable users are going to be very excited about this. If I hover over this field, you can see here that currently this one just says due date. It's basically the column name, whereas here this is the field ID. And the way Airtable works is each field that you have has a consistent field ID. If you change the name, the field ID will stay the same. So we can see now that we have basically one scenario here that is actually referencing directly the field name, and that we have three scenarios that are referencing the field ID. So all of these, none of these would break if I were to change the name of the field to task due date. However, this one would. So now I have the option to just go and zoom in on this scenario, open it up, make sure I'm only linking it based on the field ID. And then in Airtable, I can easily go and change the name and know that none of my scenarios are going to break. Now for my final use case where I think the grid is going to be really powerful, and that's for automation agencies. If you're an automation agency, having this visual view where you can go to potential clients and show them some of the projects and the data processes you've set up for other clients is going to be super impactful. What's great about this is that when you're at this zoomed out view, you're not really exposing any sensitive data or customer data that you might be worried about as if you're going into individual scenarios. Even if you're not an automation agency, maybe you are an automation specialist or one of the few automation specialists at a company. Here's a great way that you can show your managers or your CEO exactly how the data is flowing in their organization and get them really excited about the projects that you're working on. So that wraps up our look at Make Grid. If you found this video interesting, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. More importantly, I'd love to hear your take. Are you excited about Make Grid? Is it something that you think you're going to be using? Please let me know in the comments below. Also, if you have any questions or maybe additional feedback for the Make team, definitely drop a comment. And until next time, happy automating.